Gerald, you heard my question about this tactic to boldly lie. Are they trying to train us that lies are okay? Gerald-Celente, trendsjournal.com.
What it is, Alex, it's fear and hysteria. They've been using it forever. And it's not only the Obama's press secretary. Go back to that whole situation under George Bush. You remember the guy that resigned, and he refused to keep lying. And how about the Gulf of Tonkin? You could go back to that one. All right, Saddam Hussein didn't have weapons of mass destruction or ties to Al-Queda. Yeah, it's much bigger than that. I believe we have to go back to President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces during World War II, a two-term
Republican president, a five-star general, who warned the people that the military-industrial complex is taking over the nation. And it's a takeover. It's not only the military-industrial complex taking us to war. They've already declared that we're in a state of war at home. And that gives them the license to surveil us all the time. I mean, you know what happened just a few days ago with the Supreme Court refusing to hear the case on warrantless wiretapping and watching us make every move that we make. So you can see it's a complete military takeover, just different divisions of it.
That's right. You just pierced right to the core of it. And from my research, you're absolutely right, Gerald. You said it in 1 minute when I said it in 5. That is it. Under the rules of war, you lie to people, and they've now declared war on us and treat us as the enemy and officially say that. And so we are treated as a foreign enemy, and this is the white shoe Wall Street mega bank occupation.
That's exactly what it is. And when you look at all of the wars past in modern history, the fundamentals behind the wars were economics. I've made this very clear over and over again. You don't even have to go back that far, Alex. You go back to the crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. You look at it now, the Panic of '08. Currency wars, the Great Depression. We're in a depression. You know what they call over there in Italy and in Spain and in Greece and in Portugal, with average unemployment around 20%, some places 27%, other places 15, 18%. They still call it a recession. Millions of people taking to the streets. It doesn't make the U.S. news. They're not talking about it. In Spain this last weekend, millions of people took to the streets. Coming up tomorrow in Portugal, millions of people are slated to hit the streets again. It's a depression. And now you listen to the new Prime Minister of Japan. You listen to the head of the former head of the Bundesbank, now chairman of UBS, Alex Verba. You listen to the head of the Bank of England, Mervyn King. We're in a currency war. Now they're talking about trade wars. Next is world war. When all else fails, they take you to war. And that's what we're heading toward. And what I believe they know it. Because as we're seeing what we saw in Italy recently with the new party coming in and gaining all of that power, you saw the world equity markets go into panic. Why? Because they know that the people are no longer going to take it, so they are preparing for the worst. And the worst is when the people hit the streets.
As we saw in Katrina, and as we are watching now in New York and New Jersey, the federal government can't and won't help you in a crisis. FEMA ran out of water and MREs in days. Electricity is still off to over 1 million people. The Red Cross, who is quick to beg for money, is now slow to react. Don't put it off any longer. Get prepared today. While you're on InfoWarsShop.com, check out these other great preparedness items. The Aquapod kit lets you store up to 65 gallons of water in your bathtub. The Pocket Socket provides you with manual electricity for small electronics like your cell phone. The Life Straw is great for your bug-out bag. And check out our complete line of Interfood products for great tasting and nutritionally dense foods that have a great shelf life. If you are looking to secure your home in a crisis, you can order Strategic Relocations, the film, a great companion to the book Strategic Relocations 3rd edition, and The Secure Home by Joel Skousen. When the time to perform arrives, the time to prepare has already passed. Get prepared now, so if a crisis strikes your home, you and your family will be secure. Go to InfoWarsShop.com.
All right, Gerald-Celente is our guest. I want to go right back where he left off as they gear up for the implosion, as the bond markets get spooked, as the bubble we're in America frays at the edges. Gerald, what do you expect to see happen? Gerald-Celente.
Yes, before I move on to that, I want to follow up on what you were talking about with Gibbs and the lies. I remember now it was Scott McClellan under Bush. And actually, we did a whole piece in the Trends Journal about how he wrote a book and how they dismissed him and how the prostitutes tried to drive him into the ground. And we did a complete analysis of how all the prostitutes from ABC, CBS, CNN, the same names you hear today, knew it was a lie and were afraid to speak out. And here's something just from a couple of days ago from the toilet paper of record, the New York Times, about how they cooked the books on the progress, the so-called progress in Afghanistan. You saw that article that just came out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Afghan signs of progress turned out to be error. Isn't that nice? Yeah, they forgot to carry a 1, you know? So the whole thing is one big lie. Look what's going on as they're talking about sequestering, you know? You know, what's that? There's fear and hysteria from the D.C. drama queens and the Beltway circle jerks. This is all they do. It's one failure after another. Oh, and here's the nice news. Hey, all you folks that are losing your homes, can't find a good job? Hey, Detroit's turning to crap. Camden's just wonderful. Would you like to have a vacation in a beautiful rundown U.S. city? Hey, they just sent more money to Friends of Syria. Isn't that wonderful? Nice Islamists fronting for the U.S. military. Friends of Syria. Hey, why don't they start a Friends of Alex Jones and Gerald-Celente campaign instead of sending these criminals already $400 million? Now get back to work, everybody. Stock those shelves at Walmart. Put on a nice smile when you walk into Staples and say, have a nice day as you leave, as they rob your money to give it to their friends. So when you look at the news and you see a tiny little story on how they lied during the so-called troop surge, that wonderful liberal Obama sent 33,000 more troops to Afghanistan.
Sure.
Surge, it was a disaster. But they don't promote it as that. Oh, look for the white smoke coming out of the Vatican. That's what they're talking about today.
Gerald, we're going to break. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. We're going to get into the technicals and Bernanke and some of the points you wanted to get into when I asked you on the show. But before we do that, just specifically for listeners, I remember 5 years ago when Obama was first running, in the middle of the campaign, they bragged that Google and Twitter were working with him and giving him their databases to send out fake tweets and fake Facebooks, and I actually pulled the articles up. I remember last year, USA Today did an article, Obama has millions of fake Twitter followers. It was admitted. 18 million of them. So all of this is going on. They brag about it in the Democratic Party. Then a congressman who doesn't, know what's going on, but he notices they're fake, he comes out and they deny it when they're bragging about it last year. So I wanted to show people this on TV. Republican rep claims Obama backers using fake Twitter accounts. Bush was doing this, but now it's expanded. They've got sock puppets. We've tracked it on Infowars.com that are fake anti-liberty people. It's on YouTube. That's all admitted, the Pentagon sock puppets. It's all admitted. But even congressmen who start to discover it, the media then lies and says they're lying. I mean, again, they deny things that are admitted.
Well, again, of course they do. It's the whole corrupt system. Again, they take you to war for lies. They sacrifice our lives for lies. They steal our money for lies. Oh, and by the way, I want to let you know, I go to your site every day, and the information that you're putting out there in some of those videos, like the one I just watched yesterday with being stopped at checkpoints, 30 miles away from borders, people should see this all the time.
It's up to 100.
It's 100 miles away now.
Well, the one I hit was 77, but yeah, they go up to 100.
Yes, so the atrocities that are being committed against us, and the people don't want to hear it. They're locked into their belief systems.
Well, here's what I want to ask you. We got to go to break. Trendsjournal.com, Gerald-Celente. What do you then, because you've called all the big trends before they happen, what do you expect as a dead reckoning, how all this will play out? I want to see you look far off into the future, bad case, good case, ugly case, and then I want to get into the current technical financials.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
I'm going to try to really shut up and give Gerald-Celente the floor because he's got a lot to cover. And I really also enjoy watching the new TV news updates they're doing. Over at trendsjournal.com. They're just really adding a lot more over there via demand. People want more, and we appreciate him giving us time here. So you heard my question before the break. No need to restate it other than for new listeners. We've seen this in history. We see the arrogance of the elite where they start smoking their own dope. I don't see this going well for civilization or the establishment. I don't think they're going to get away with what they're doing, but they may bring down society in the process. So looking out into the future, the good scenarios, the bad scenarios, the ugly scenarios. Let's start with the bad scenarios. What happens if this continues a year, 2 years, 5 years? Where does it lead?
Well, again, let's look at the financial facts first. We just saw the Dog and Pony show put on by Osama Ben Bernanke, America's public enemy #1. And I say that, the Federal Reserve Chairman, there's a couple of important things to remember about this. You know, Alex, it takes them 5 years as part of the whole scam to release the Fed minutes for we the people to read. Isn't that wonderful? We're too stupid to read them as they come out. They have to wait for 5 years. Of course, they do that purposely so that we can't see how dumb they are. Because everybody can now see what morons they are when you see that as the crash was happening, the Panic of '08 was underway, and as we were warning everyone that it was happening, the Federal Reserve, from their minutes, none of them saw it coming, and they kept denying the facts. So now we fast forward to now, 5 years later, and there's Bernanke a few days ago at the congressional hearings. And what does he say? Well, first what he said was that they're going to keep the stimulus going. They call it quantitative easing. Of course, that's white shoe boy language for printing digital money, not worth the paper it's not printed on. And this is historical. Nothing has ever happened like this in history, because it's not only the United States. As I mentioned, the new Bank of Japan guy, he's printing more money as well. You go over to Europe, they have a different name for it. That guy, Mario Draghi, who's the head of the European Central Bank, just a little background on him, of course. He was the former vice chairman of the European division of the Goldman Sachs gang. They call it long-term refinancing operations. You can't remember that name? Try throwing out L-throw, and then try throwing this into it. You look at how they were supposed to pay back the money. Well, the numbers just came in a few days ago. Of course, it doesn't make the Prestitute press. They're not paying it back. They don't have the dough. So now you're looking at, well, come up with another word. If 5 letters are too much, how about OMT? Ongoing monetary transactions. You like that one? We'll keep printing more money. So you look at China as well. They're doing it differently, and I have to admit, much smarter. Because they're not only giving the money to the banks, what they're doing, this may upset a lot of people, they're building the infrastructure. Yeah, that's right. They have rail systems there that put ours to shame.
They're taking all the fiat crud that's soon to be worth nothing and building a civilization with it. And the globalists have put policies here to shut us down while allowing them to develop, because China, according to the CFR, is the future.
Exactly. I mean, you look at that guy Bloomberg, the mayor in New York. He's going all around the country, you know, touting his gun control program. Hey, Bloomberg, do you ever go down into the subway? You want a day in Calcutta? Try riding the New York subways. It's a disgrace. I travel the world. There's no place as disgraceful as the subway system in America.
Rats, feces, being mugged. I've been in there. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, or get thrown onto the tracks. Have a nice day, you know? So as we're looking at it, now Bernanke is coming out and saying, here's the warning signal. Interest rates may go up. He says it's going to be showing a sign of economic vitality. You know what that is? That's BS. Because look at the numbers that just came out today. Oh, yeah. Hey, GDP for the last quarter of 2012, it didn't decline 0.1%. It grew 0.1%. Oh, wonderful, wonderful growth. So what they're saying, there is no vitality. I'm pointing this out, Alex, so that people can be prepared for what's going to happen. At some point, they're going to have to raise interest rates. You can't keep this going. This is unprecedented. As I said, it's worldwide. All they're doing is shoveling money in to keep the Ponzi scheme going. Oh, and just to show that it's not going, another little story that just came out. That $83 billion in profits that the big banks reported last year, they weren't profits at all. It's because we, the taxpayer, is subsidizing them to get cheap money. So now, going back to the interest rates, why is the housing market pumped up again? Because you could borrow money. I just bought properties over here, as you know. I'm buying historical properties in colonial Kingston. I bought a 1750s house, a 1774.
You're betting on America. Your idea is don't leave the country. You're betting on America. You're all in.
Yeah, exactly. But the last one I just got a loan for, it's a residential. It's from 68 for 2.87%. And it's locked in for 15 years. I'm going to be paying these back with cheap money. But now, interest rates are going to have to go up. That's going to stop the real estate from, it'll go back into a steep decline. Now, number two, they're also pointing to auto sales. Oh, brilliant. I got a deal for you, pal. How about 0% for 60 months? It's just another scam of like they did in the mortgage market. But now they're doing it in the auto market. So everything they're doing is they're creating another bubble. It cannot continue. When we're talking about the sequestering baloney and fiscal cliffs, this is chump change. They're never going to pay off $16.5 trillion in debt plus when you put the pensions and other things into it. So what does this mean? They're going to devalue the currency. They did the same thing during the Great Depression. And when I talk, by the way, and I'll get back to the Great Depression and how they devalued the dollar, but when I talk about currency wars and world wars, do you know, Alex, that as the trade wars started heating up and the countries tried to sell more of their crap, Japan took themselves off the gold standard and lowered the value of the yen to 60% below the US dollar and 40% below the pound sterling. That allowed them to export more products, hence the trade wars and world wars. The United States tried to do the same thing, but they weren't as successful at it. We were on the gold standard back then, as you well know, and the listeners do too. They made us return our gold to the Federal Reserve. They took our money, and then they devalued. It was $35, $22, I believe, and 60 cents an ounce or something like that. When we turned it all in, they repegged the price of gold at $35 an ounce, which meant that you lost 70% of your purchasing power. That's what they're going to do. They're going to devalue our currency. Why aren't gold prices going higher? They're only about, as we speak now, about what, 1580. The reason I believe is that they're rigging the market. A conspiracy theory? No.
No, look at LIBOR.
You got it. You got it. Look at LIBOR. How many hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of interest rates were rigged? This is not a conspiracy theory. It's fact. It's hard fact. So if they're rigging that, of course they're rigging gold because...
Well, they've been caught doing it before. I mean, and they've got fake tungsten gold. And the proof is, as you've said, Germany and all these other countries like Venezuela, they want their gold back. And the Federal Reserve is like, we'll give it to you in installments over the next decade.
Yeah, right. You know, they kept bringing it over by carrier pigeon. It's going to take to 2020. That gold's not there. And they know that by debasing the currencies and people going into gold, it will bring down the Ponzi scheme. So that's why they're debasing the value. They're driving. Gold markets are very thinly traded. It's very easy to be manipulating them as well as silver. So for me, again, I do not give financial advice, only for myself. I continue to buy gold. I continue to buy silver because I believe it's a Ponzi scheme.
And even though other investments aren't perfect, anything's going to be better than a devalued dollar. So if you've got surplus funds, real estate, gold, silver, but you've got to study the real estate or you can get your butt handed to you.
Again, I'm only buying historic buildings on the most historic corner in the United States. The only place on each corner where there's a pre-revolutionary stone
Now, I understand
building.
how long...
Because I love this country.
I understand how long...
Revolution.
How long until they raise the interest rates?
It's hard to tell because it depends on the currency wars. We just saw Venezuela devalue their currency. So and we're watching what's going on in Japan.
And they never announce it beforehand. They just do it. Boom.
They do it. Not only that, look what the Swiss did. I used to call the Swiss the money cockroaches of the world. And I used to invest in Swiss francs. But then they pegged it to the euro because the franc was becoming so expensive, their companies couldn't export product. So, yeah, they're going to do it like that. But I believe the flashpoint is going to be terror or war, fake flag or real.
I agree with you. And now the Attorney General who ran Fast and Furious is back in the news openly saying that the anti-government people, you and I, Ron Paul, that we're the new terror threat. I mean, how obvious. The whole Homeland Security grid. No, now Al-Qaeda's our buddy over there fighting Assad. The globalists say we're the terrorist. I mean, this is just textbook central government takeover by a bunch of crooks.
It is. I want to go back to that Gibbs point. My staff got me the Trends Journal. It was the one with that wonderful Anthony Frieda "Screw the People" piece. Here. There was a sense of pressure. There was a sense of pressure from the corporations who own where we work, and from government itself to really squash any dissent. This is about the Iraq War, said Katie Couric. Quote, "I could remember getting in trouble with administration officials because of asking questions they didn't feel comfortable with." Sound familiar? Here we go.
Sounds like Bob Woodward. And here's the thing. They later tattle about it like it makes it okay that they lied to us.
And what kind of courage? Imagine dying and knowing you were a person like this with no courage, dignity, or self-respect. It gets better. There was a drumbeat of support from the administration, and it is not our job to debate them. coward, that prostitute.
Did you hear that? It's not our job to debate the government. We regurgitate whatever they vomit on us.
That's right. That was from Charlie Gibson, ABC. And we go on to write, whistleblower McClellan accused the White House. This is the wars that they sold us, you know, that cost us $1 trillion, that wounded hundreds of thousands of our friends and neighbors and relatives fighting a useless war, killed 5,000 and about 1 million Iraqis. Yeah, here. Whistleblower McClellan accused the White House, quote, of spreading distortions, shading the truth, speaking half-truths, and telling, quote, outright lies in a, quote, political propaganda campaign to sell the war to the American people, end quote. Where are the war tribunals? How come these people that took us to war are not being brought up on war crimes?
And what's amazing, it then gives a green light to the next tyrant, Obama, to do whatever he wants, and then he gets away with it all. Benghazi, all these other energy scams, the stuff that's happened with Fast and Furious. I mean, it is just, the green light's been given. So what's coming next? How do we fight back against it? ProPure is introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. This is the Pro One by ProPure. You wanted it, you got it. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It cuts out the acid derivative of fluoride. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. This is a revolution against the tyrants. They love putting the toxic acid base of fluoride into your water. They love the fact that it's an adjuvant supercharging the trace Prozac in the water and the hormones and the other chemicals. By cutting out fluoride, you cut out the turbocharger in all the poison being artificially introduced into your body. This is what I use. It's a win-win. You get a high-quality product at the lowest price. You support the InfoWar. Get your ProPure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Yeah, Bradley Manning is pled guilty to misusing classified data in WikiLeaks. But what about journalists they arrest who report crimes, or government people like that CIA guy that exposed illegal torture? He's spending 30 months in jail for doing his job. I mean, shame on the FBI, shame on the federal government, shame on those juries, what they've turned into. I mean, this is so dangerous. And you've got a government using fake Twitter and Facebook accounts, and they get caught, and then they just deny it, and the media goes along with it. By the way, if you want the best gravity-fed stainless steel filters, side-by-side comparisons with the leading competition, blows them away, what I use, ProPure, available at InfoWarsStore.com, discounted at the lowest price anywhere, 10% off with promo code WATER. Go to the site, buy the books, buy the videos, buy the materials. It helps build our news organization. And go to TrendsJournal.com and subscribe to the Trends Journal. Great quarterly, big, thick magazine. You got the Trends Alerts, so much more. Support the true free press in this country. Gerald, we only got 4 or 5 minutes left. Other key points you're going to wish you covered once we're gone, once this show's over today. Am I right in saying the craziness is intensifying, and I think there's a breaking point? Or are the psych warfare chiefs just breaking the will with a normalcy bias where people just expect anything?
I think it's both of what you said. And I think there's a model for us all to follow that's really not making it very much in the American media. And that's what just happened in Italy.
Yeah.
Something that we've been following for quite some time, predicted it in the Trends Journal.
You did. Only country to say no to the banksters.
Yep. And that's the Beppe Grillo's 5-star movement. They call him a comedian. He's not a comedian. He's a brilliant satirist. You want to see a comedian? How about those buffoons out there on the presidential reality show?
Yeah, so the only big country in Europe is Italy so far. The bankers, Bilderberg, are upset. The small country that did it was Iceland. That's the model, isn't it?
Yes, and this is really what's interesting with Beppe Grillo's 5-star movement. He never appeared on he refused to go on any of the TV shows with the prostitutes. He is the model for the internet candidate that we wrote about in the Trends Journal in December of 1999. He did it with, remember, the internet was new back then.
You don't go on the big shows, so-called big mainline shows anymore, most of them.
Yeah, he wouldn't do any of it. He did it with Facebook. He did it with Twitter. He did it like you and like I'm doing it with our own TV broadcasts. He did it by going to making 74 stops around the country where hundreds of thousands of people turned out to hear him. He did it by galvanizing the people that were intelligent enough not to believe in the corrupt two-party system.
He got up off his butt and went outside the system, build our own system. That's the answer.
That's the answer. He refuses now. They can't form a government because he has holding so many seats. He refuses to deal with either of the two corrupt parties. He wants to bring the Eurozone and the Euro up for referendum.
Yes.
Let the people vote.
Kill the euro, which they brag was designed to implode countries and take them over by the banksters.
Yes, so the model exists. It's the 5-star movement. The model exists in Iceland. The model exists in the heart, in the mind, and the spirit of each individual that has the courage to look within themselves to find it. There's nothing complicated about this. Did you see the pictures of Obama in front of that big propeller at the Virginia shipyard the other day?
Oh, yeah.
Who could believe this stuff?
Incredible. Gerald Celente, trendsjournal.com. I'm Alex Jones with prisonplanet.tv and Infowars.com. Don't forget tonight's news, 7 o'clock. Thank you so much, Gerald.
Thank you, Alex.
Great job, Gerald Celente. Visit Infowars.com and prisonplanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.